To the deeper dive. I'm Alex Baker. I'm joined here by Ship My Money DFS, aka Adam Scherer. Adam, how's it going tonight?
Going good, man. Pretty crazy slate trying to break down. Complete opposite of yesterday, where there wasn't a whole lot going on, and we had a bunch of really good basketball games. Today, a bunch of really bad basketball games, and a lot of stuff to try and dig through. So, been a pretty entertaining day, I guess.
Yeah, I mean those games last night, Clippers versus Houston, Milwaukee versus Lakers, those were pretty good. But tonight, I mean, we got New York Knicks at Miami. That's some top billing, I'm sure. But yeah, actually, pretty interesting slate yesterday. We didn't see much value today. We got loads of it. And I'll just get right into the best spot of the night, perhaps, is the Raptors. First of all, the matchup versus the Wizards is they're one of the weakest defensive teams. They're quick pace, and so Norman Powell's out, Pascal Siakam's out, Marcus Hall's out, Fred VanVleet's questionable. So do you think this is really the team to target tonight?
Yeah, it's obviously a great spot. The one thing that is nice is that the sites did a decent job of pricing guys up, or specifically DraftKings did. Um, with the news, like there's still a lot of the best plays on the slate from the Toronto side here, no doubt about it. But it's at least interesting, and you kind of have to think about your roster construction. There was a good chance I thought that it was just free squares everywhere, but yeah, I think that when you combine Nick Nurse tends to run a tight rotation, kind of regardless of who is in or out. And then you have the Raptors facing one of the fastest teams in the league and one of the worst defenses in the league. It's obviously one of the best spots on the slate.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be loading up on these guys. Fred VanVleet, if he's out too, I mean that's gonna make everyone on the team pretty nice. So I'll just start with the backups here. Ibaka, he's most likely gonna start for Gasol. He got a nice price bump up, so he's 7,400 DraftKings, 7,400 FanDuel. Does this push him in the lock territory for you?
He's one of my favorite plays on the slate. Obviously, with it being a 10 game slate and with there being so much value and so many good plays, I wouldn't, classify anyone as a lock, but I do think he's one of the best plays because it's not like there's any sort of talent concerns with Ibaka or any sort of fantasy production concerns. This isn't one of those guys that is being forced into a starting spot and we don't really know how he's going to produce. He's averaged 1.18 DraftKings points per minute this season. He's that rate goes up when you take Gasol and Siakam off the floor. It's obviously a great matchup. There's nothing really to dislike about Ibaka, and I don't really have any reason to think that, barring foul trouble or injury or something like that, that he plays less than 35 or 36 minutes here.
And you're pretty optimistic. I put him more around the low 30s because, I mean, Gasol, he wasn't on the team last year to start the year, and that's kind of what he averaged. So, of course, Boucher being the backup, not necessarily as good as their backup last year. Can't remember off the top of my head who it was, but um, the rest of the gang here, we got uh, a power forward replacing Siakam. It's most likely going to be either Malcolm Miller or Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. I think everyone was expecting RJ to start one of the games, but then Miller started. That didn't really work out too well. And then they went to RJ in the starting lineup after that, I believe. So are you predicting a Rondae Hollis-Jefferson start tonight?
Yeah, I'm expecting Hollis-Jefferson to start. Even if he comes off the bench, I think the minutes should be pretty reasonable for him because he's someone that can defend multiple positions. It's a small Washington lineup, so it shouldn't be difficult to get him minutes. I'm expecting he starts though, so I have him in for about 28 minutes right now.
Nice. I think that's a pretty good prediction there. Another guy that I'm looking at, this is kind of contingent on Fred VanVleet, is Patrick Makau. So if VanVleet's in, we're going to see Lowry, VanVleet, Anunoby, Hollis-Jefferson, Ibaka. But if VanVleet's out, I'm expecting Makau. He played bunch of minutes last game. But man, he has not been performing at a high rate this year as far as fantasy production. Do you think he would be a play?
I was kind of scared when I looked at projections there because I think he gets minutes, but he's just not a very productive player. He's averaged like a half a fantasy point per minute this year. We obviously don't have a really big sample either, but it's tough because it is a good matchup against the Wizards, obviously. But if VanVleet's in, I don't think I'll get there, because also we've seen Makau subbing in for Lowry. If Van Vliet's in, obviously that's going to be Van Vliet instead. And so it would be even less productive minutes when you add Van Vliet to the floor. So I think that he's going to be out there and he'll be one of the lowest owned guys. I think the minutes are there. I just think with all the value on this slate, I'm not really going to end up getting to someone that doesn't produce when he's on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, he in my model is about just I had a tad bit above half a point a minute, so really not a great fantasy guy. Another option would be Terrence Davis, who the minutes are a little bit harder to come by, but he's about a point a minute guy. So are you pretty interested in Terrence Davis tonight? It's kind of a contrarian play on the team.
Much more interested if Van Vliet's out, of course. If Van Vliet's in, I think it becomes really interesting, because when you start projecting out the minutes with Van Vliet in, it kind of comes down to you have to make decisions on who you think gets minutes. And we've seen Makau be ahead of Davis in the rotation recently. Granted, that was subbing in for Lowry, so maybe that changes. But also, basically you could project it one of two ways. One being that Chris Boucher gets a few minutes alongside Serge Ibaka. The other being that he doesn't, and that OG Anunoby is the backup 4, and then you're getting more minutes on the wing for someone like Terrence Davis. So I think that I'll probably set a rule so that I don't get Davis and Boucher in the same lineup, and because I think that their minutes are going to I only expect one of them, if Van Vliet's in, to get enough minutes to be someone that I want to roster. So I probably will set that rule. It's just with Davis also, he's not as cheap. He's 4,100 on DraftKings, which obviously if he were to play like 28 minutes or something would be too cheap, but I don't think he gets that many minutes.
Yeah, I kind of like it if Van Vliet's out, especially in FanDuel. But yeah, the minutes, as you're saying, kind of questionable behind Makau. And just to fill in everybody who's making their own projections out there, are there any guys that haven't been playing in the Raptors rotation recently that we should keep an eye on?
The guy that I think could just completely mess everything up is Malcolm Miller, who you mentioned earlier. We've seen games where he just comes out of nowhere and plays minutes. I'm not projecting that, but that's the guy that I guess could do it.
Stanley Johnson, I don't even know if he's healthy or not, but I feel like maybe he goes and gets some minutes too. Do you have any idea if he's playing tonight?
No. The one thing that makes me feel reasonably good about Toronto is that they just pretty much always run a tight rotation. So it would be really unusual for Nick Nurse to just start pulling a bunch of random guys off the end of the bench.
That's a good point. Yeah. Although this might be a case of necessity, because if Van Vliet's out, I only have 9 guys or I think 8 guys that would be in the rotation. So we'll wait and see on that.
Yeah, I mean, if Van Vliet's out, that opens up another like 36 minutes.
That's true. Yeah. Well, if he does play, do you think he would be at full strength?
I would assume so. Like, I don't think they're going to rush him back. The entire team just got hurt. They're playing the Wizards. You would think that they don't risk re-aggravating his injury. So if he's out there, I assume he's good to go.
What was his injury? I'm trying to.
It was a knee injury, if I remember.
A knee injury. Oh, yeah. That would be one where personally I wouldn't play Van Vliet. That'd be a wait and see for me. So we actually have this very special promotion going on tonight. So some of you guys may have played on Super Draft, but it's like a newer site. And this is going to take 5 minutes. Adam, are you on Super Draft?
I am not right now.
All right, so here's what you got to do, man. Go on Super Draft, type in the code AWESEMO20 on promos when you sign up, and you get $20 in your account right off the bat to play with. And we actually have a $20 contest tonight that you can enter on Super Draft. But here's the catch: is this promo, it's only valid for the next 2 hours. So if you want to get $20 free, you got to do it now. I figure it takes 5 minutes to sign up and build your lineup. And if you extrapolate that into an hourly rate, you're making $240 per hour. And I like that kind of number. So I definitely recommend it tonight. I'll be on there playing, of course. If you can beat me, I'll give you give you some props. All right, so going back to the game by game here, we got Memphis at Cleveland. Well, I guess we'll go into Washington first. Washington, Hachimura is out for a few games, I think, and then Thomas Bryant was already out. Mo Wagner is out. They signed some dude on Zej Pasnicks who played 28 minutes last game. That probably messed up a lot of people's lineups who are on Mahinmi. So just, I guess Bertans had the big game last time, and it was an overtime game, so it was kind of, everyone was inflated a little bit. Who's going to be your guy on this team tonight?
Not much of anything for me. One thing that stood out last game was that you did have a 10-man rotation. So that kind of cut minutes back for people. Bertans didn't get time at the 5. You had Mahinmi, who dealt with some foul trouble, and then you had AP that played the rest of the minutes at the 5. So I have Mahinmi in for 26 minutes here. I have AP for the other 22. But that means that I have Bertans at 33 instead of like the 36 or 37 that I thought he was going to play in regulation last game. So pricing coming up on the Wizards, still, not a great matchup against Toronto. The only guy that really seems interesting to me is Bradley Beal, because he's still affordable, because we know that he's going to have a 32+% usage percentage and play, probably 37 minutes. But in the context of the slate, where there's a lot of guys to go to, like it's really tough for me to play Bradley Beal over Kyle Lowry, for example.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Beal seems to be a guy that maybe he's not producing as high a rate as you might expect given all the injuries on Washington. His numbers have stayed pretty close to his season-long averages, but he plays so many minutes that I kind of like it. In addition, the Raptors kind of banged up, so maybe the defensive schemes aren't as good for Toronto tonight. So I kind of like Beal. I'll also take a step on Bertans. I think that when you get Mahinmi and Pasnech in at center, these guys aren't really as good rebounders as Thomas Bryant and Mo Wagner. So I'm thinking that there's a trickle-down effect where especially the bigger guys on the team like Davis Bertans get a few more boards. Also, Troy Brown is a guy that gets rebounds at a surprisingly high rate. So I kind of think these guys might be a little bit sneakier than people expect. So do you think Bertans is a good play, or are you just too worried about the minutes?
I'm nowhere near him at his price point now. If you were getting 36 or 37 minutes, it would be easier for me. And I also would prefer that he play center like we were seeing for a while. But since he got no minutes their last game, it for one takes some potential minutes away from him, but I also just expect the rebounding to be a little bit lower than it would be if he was actually getting those minutes. So it's still, a score, like he's an absolutely great 3-point shooter, and he can still get hot and go nuts, but I don't really think that there's a whole lot of risk to not having him at this price point.
I think maybe that I'm looking at the game flow from last game, and the bench went on a pretty good run. So I'm thinking maybe that had to do with some of the decreased minutes for some of these guys. So I'm going to take another shot here. Bertans is a guy who's averaged 30 minutes on the season, but starting, he probably picks up more minutes, especially given the injuries. Guys, I had a couple questions about the promo code for Super Draft here to get that free $20. It's Asimo20. So if you just type that in, you don't even have to deposit to get it. So it's going to be the best 5 minutes you're going to spend all day here. So definitely recommend that. Okay, moving on. We got Memphis at Cleveland, 2 of the top teams in the league. Memphis is actually favored in this one. I guess Jamal Murray is kind of pulling this team out of the greatest depths of the NBA. As far as injuries, Grayson Allen is questionable. That's probably not going to move the needle. Probably he'll take minutes away from Solomon Hill or something like that, or Melton. But I'm seeing a couple of guys maybe on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, nothing really. What are you seeing in this Memphis team?
Yeah, nothing really jumping out for me on DraftKings. I think that Morant and Brandon Clark are the 2 most appealing, but still just nothing but secondary options. Like Cleveland is a really bad defensive team. So if you're just like if you have a chalky lineup and you have money for Morant and he's the last guy in, like whatever, he clearly can go for like, he has upside here. It's just that there are so many good plays on this slate. I don't want to, sound like Morant's a key guy for me.
Yeah, I mean, his minutes have been up a lot recently. One trend in this slate is that on FanDuel the prices are much better than DraftKings. So he's kind of standing out as maybe a play on FanDuel for me. Dylan Brooks also kind of cheap, but he's probably not going to see that many minutes. Grayson Allen being questionable. If he's out, maybe Brooks sees some more minutes in the rotation. But
I think Brooks' minutes are kind of concerning too. Now that Melton's basically the backup too, you're getting like 48 minutes from Brooks and Melton, and Melton is obviously better than Marko Guduric, who was backing up Brooks before. So it's just harder to be confident in Brooks's minutes.
All right, cool. Yeah, no FOMO if you're fading these guys, I don't think. Cleveland, pretty healthy squad here. The matchup versus Memphis, I think it is a little bit up-tempo, bad defensive team, so maybe we see some better than average performances here. One guy I've been on a little bit recently is Tristan Thompson. He seems to always get the minutes, whether it's a blowout or what, averaging 31 over the season. And Kevin Love's usage has been up a little bit, but I mean, to be honest, these guys aren't really going to get you too excited in DFS unless you're seeing something here I'm not.
No, Thompson's the one that stands out the most to me just because his price point is pretty low. Cleveland's a team that you can kind of take advantage of sites pricing guys based on how many minutes they average, kind of, instead of but like a team like Cleveland gets blown out so much that when you get them in a game like this where it's, you know, a 3-point spread, you're probably, there's a good chance that you're going to get more minutes than average for guys like Thompson. You know, like if he's averaging 30 minutes over the last month in competitive games, you're still seeing those 33, 34 minutes. It's not a great matchup. Memphis has allowed the 9th fewest offensive rebounds per game. I really like Thompson in matchups where he's likely to get more offensive rebounds, but I still think it's a pretty good price point on him on DraftKings and on FanDuel.
Yeah, man. My favorite play in fantasy is when the guy gets the offensive rebound, bricks the shot, gets another offensive rebound, and then puts it in. I mean,
the Bam Adebayo from a couple years ago.
Yeah,
he just did it constantly.
Or just Andre Drummond. I mean,
yeah,
like any guy that gets the offensive rebounds but can't shoot. That's the kind of guy I like in DFS. Do you think there's anyone else like Chetty or Colin Sexton worth talking about here?
Not really. Like Clarkson would be the other guy that I'm interested in just as a value that nobody will play. I've been projected for 24 minutes. We know he'll go out there and shoot. He's only 4,300 on FanDuel, so it's an even better price point than DraftKings.
Yeah, sounds good. Indiana or Sacramento at Indiana. This game has some more interesting storylines, I think. So we just got news that Aaron Holiday is starting for Jeremy Lamb, who is out. And we've seen in previous games when he started, he actually had some pretty good performances. So that opens up about 30 minutes a game. So I think Holiday cracks the rotation. Would you put him more on the 28 range or 30 plus?
I have him at 30. I think that if he's playing really well, you could see the 30 plus, but I didn't really have too much trouble filling out the minutes, just giving him 30 because I expect Justin Holiday to eat up some minutes. I expect McDermott to get some minutes. And then you still have extra guys on the bench that could pick up a few, whether it's, you know, Edmund Sumner or Goga getting back into the rotation and pushing Sabonis out to the 4. So I feel pretty comfortable having Aaron Holiday at 30.
Yeah, I almost forgot about Edmund Sumner. That guy could definitely see some backup shooting guard minutes. You heard it here first in the deeper dive. So I think Holiday makes a nice value play with this in mind. TJ Warren was questionable, but now he's in. His price point is decent. Do you think that Lamb's being out really affects anyone's production to a significant degree?
I don't think it has a big impact. He's not a high usage guy. He grabs some rebounds, but he's not like a top rebounder. I expect Aaron Holiday to more or less fill in Lamb's usage. I'm interested in Warren more so just because of his price tag. Like even if Lamb were in, I'd be interested in a $4,900 Warren on DraftKings. But I don't think Lamb has a big impact on anyone outside of the minutes that he gives to the Holidays.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I'm not really seeing any edge here. Sacramento, I think, is a pretty interesting team to talk about. The news here, Bogdanovich is questionable. I'm not really sure who would soak up the minutes. I think that whoever starts at power forward, probably Bielitsa, but also perhaps Bagley could get some minutes. maybe some Justin James if he's on the team now.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of it. I think you could see more like just Yogi soak up some minutes. You could see Ariza get more minutes. Ariza was down to 19 last game, but we know that Luke Walton has had an affinity for playing him a lot of minutes. So I think if Bogdan's out, it probably doesn't have a big impact DFS wise.
Yeah, I concur. The one thing about this game I think that might be intriguing is Darren Fox. He came off the bench last game and played 30 minutes. One potential thing I'm seeing here, I really feel like the starting lineup might go back to the first one of the season where it was Fox and Bagley, because Bagley he's a pretty big power forward. He'd be matched up against Sabonis, so I feel like that's kind of a good matchup. He has been playing the backup center for Holmes, and they've been combining for 48 minutes every game. But what do you make of Bagley right now?
I like that idea. Like, obviously, I have no idea if it'll happen, but if they're considering playing Bagley alongside Holmes, this would be the matchup where you do it. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And obviously, we'll get that lineup before lock. But if you get Bagley alongside Holmes, it means you can project Holmes for more minutes and Bagley for more minutes. So that would be really important.
That'd be nice. So this is a 7 p.m. game, so we should have the starting lineup before lock. Something to be aware of before you're scrambling with 30 minutes left. That's never fun. All right, guys. We actually are giving. I sold this promotion on Super Draft Short. The Awesome 20 gets you the free $20 without a deposit for use tonight. And as I mentioned, it's only good for the next 2 hours. But also, we're giving away $500 for people who are on our Twitch and also members of Super Draft. So to participate in this, you need to type in !Super Draft in the Twitch chat. And then at 7:05 p.m., we will choose a random person to get $500. So I think that, we usually have about 2,000, 3,000 people watching this stream at a time. If maybe 500 people enter this, you have a pretty good shot at that's probably way too many. Maybe 100 people enter this, so it's like $5 just for typing in !Super Draft in Twitch. So I mean, that's $25 you're making tonight between Super Draft and Twitch. Some good free money. Next game, we got Detroit at Boston. Detroit's another team that's super banged up. We have Blake out, Luke Kennard is out, and Christian Wood is also out. So the guy I think that is on people's radars more than anyone is Langston Galloway. I think people are projecting him to fill up Luke Kennard's minutes and play big minutes. I saw him as high as almost like high 30s, depending on who you ask, but I'm at 34. I don't think it's even a lock he starts, though, because Svi Makau started one game in place of Kennard, I think. So what do you think is going to happen here?
I think Galloway starts. Svi started the last game. Kennard was out, like you said, but then Galloway started the second half. I actually remember watching that game, and the broadcasters even talking about how Svi just kind of being a better fit off the bench. So I'm guessing they go with that. Galloway ended up playing almost 38 minutes in that game too. So I haven't projected to start and play 36. The issue obviously is that it's still Langston Galloway, and his rates aren't really that high when you consider he's going to be playing a lot of minutes alongside Andre Drummond. He's going to be playing a good share of minutes alongside Derrick Rose. So still probably not the most productive minutes, but anytime you have someone near the minimum salary and you can reasonably project him for mid 30s in minutes, it's a perfectly fine play.
Yeah, I think this is really site specific because, as you mentioned, Galloway, not a good permanent producer. On DraftKings, where value is very difficult to come by, he's going to be a core play, I feel like. But on FanDuel, he's a little bit more, and there's a lot more cheap guys. So I feel like he's not going to be a good play. So it's one of the limitations of doing these shows. We can't talk about every site, but make sure that kind of tailor your strategy to whatever you're playing on. Markieff Morris, I think he's kind of the guy that I'm going to gravitate more to than anyone. Super cheap on certain sites. But last game he played like a ton of second half minutes, even got in for 3 shifts. He's almost a permanent or point per minute guy. Do you think Markieff is going to be a core play for you tonight?
Another site specific guy for me. I think at 5K on DraftKings, he's fine. But 3,900 on FanDuel is, I think, one of the better values on the slate. Like, I would prefer a $3,900 Markieff Morris to a $3,800 Langston Galloway. He's just a better producer when he's on the floor. Played 33 minutes in the game that Griffin missed a couple of nights ago. You don't have Christian Wood here to potentially steal minutes from Keith either, so they should be pretty secure, barring something weird happening. So yeah, I think that he's fine on any site, but really stands out on FanDuel.
I mean, there's no Christian Wood, but they have Sekou Doumbouya.
Yeah,
the 15th pick in the NBA draft.
Yeah, I threw 10 minutes to him, which I think is the entire amount of minutes he's played all season.
Well, I mean, yeah, he hasn't played much this season, but this is an extreme circumstance. Not a DFS play, but I think if you're not putting him in the rotation, you're going to get way too high projection from Markieff.
Yep.
I feel like he's pretty much a 30-minute guy. Like at the start of the season, pretty much no reason to not run him out as much as they could, but that makes him a good play, not like a must-have, except on FanDuel where he's just dirt cheap. Andre Drummond, though, he should get more usage, more assists, and more rebounds without Blake. That's been the trend over the past year or two. And he's below 10K. Is he on your radar tonight?
Yeah, I think that he's a really good play here. You know that in competitive games, he plays really big minutes without Blake or Kennard on the floor this year. 25% usage, 27.5% rebounding percentage, and a 17.5% assist percentage. So you see more usage, you see more assists, and you see a little bit more rebounding from him. It's not really a scary matchup against the Boston front court. You have, of the guys that are playing center for Boston right now, he's got 3 inches and about 40 pounds on Daniel Tice. He's got like 30 pounds on Enes Kanter, and he's like a whole human being bigger than anyone else that they would run out there. So it's a good spot for Drummond. Like rebounding wise, the guy that matches up with him the best is Kanter, but then you're talking about a pretty lackluster defender. So Drummond should still be able to have success. So yeah, I think that he's a really good play.
Nice. I like to hear it because I'm on the train. Derrick Rose is someone people have been talking about, but I don't feel him as much because it seems like he's more limited with the minutes. The price is pretty high. Do you find any way you're getting a D Rose?
I expect that my Rose ownership will come down a lot to projected ownership, because I have him projected as a good play, but not as a great play where like I don't really care about the ownership. I think that the rates are really good. But like you said, the minutes are an issue. If you look at his numbers without without Blake and without Kennard, I expect about 60% of his minutes to be with Drummond on the floor and about 40% without. So I have him projected for about a 32.5% usage rate, 40.5% assist percentage, which is obviously really nice. He's played between 28 and 29 minutes each of his last 2 games, but it's just really difficult to envision him getting much more than that because we haven't seen that all season, and Dwayne Casey has talked about not wanting to play him more than that. So the minutes and the tough matchup are certainly a concern.
Yeah. I think that the name value might make him overowned tonight. I'm not seeing a huge, like the per minute numbers are good, but the minutes are bad. So Bruce Brown is another guy that's popping up for me on FanDuel. Before he was splitting 48 minutes with Rose, but they've played alongside each other more in the past few games. Is there any way you get to Brown?
I have him at 28 minutes. He's certainly not standing out for me on DraftKings at 5,100. At 4,500 on FanDuel, he looks a little bit better, but I would still have him behind all of Galloway, Morris, Rose, and Drummond at their respective prices.
All right, good to know. Boston with no Hayward, no Smart, so Brad Wanamaker night. Am I right?
I have him at 24 minutes.
Yeah, he played 24 last game. It seems like in the games he gets the minutes, he doesn't get that good fantasy points per minute for some reason, but that's just luck. I mean, so is he like, how much are you going to have him tonight on DraftKings? Because I feel like that's a site where you really need him at 3,400.
Yeah, I don't expect him to be like a core play for me, but I do think he's a really good pivot to someone like Langston Galloway, who's going to get a lot more ownership. One thing that really stood out last game for Wanamaker was that he closed, and I don't really have any reason to think that necessarily changes here. It's even if they start Semi again, there's no real reason for Semi to be closing this game. And against the Pistons lineup, it'll be really easy to run out something like Kemba, Wanamaker, Jalen, Tatum, and one of the centers. So I think that those minutes are as secure as any, minutes for a backup in Brad Stevens' rotation. I think that he probably goes a little bit overlooked relative to some other guys, and those other guys like Galloway aren't high per minute producers. So it's not like you're taking a ton of risk by pivoting to someone like Wanamaker.
I like it, man. It's going to be hard to click that button, but I think that his struggles as chalk are going to lead to depressed ownership compared to what you might expect. So I think unless more value opens up, he's a decent play. The rest of the guys, Walker, Brown, Tatum, I'm expecting a few more shots with Hayward out, but that's making them good plays, but not great ones. Is there any particular one of the starters you're gravitating towards?
I'm with you. I think that they're good, but not great. Like I think Kemba and Tatum in particular look good at their DraftKings salaries. They also were having their minutes staggered last game, which is good because their rates obviously go up when they are playing without the other one on the floor. So they're good, but not guys that I expect to have tons of. I think in terms of ownership and the potential upside, Enes Kanter is actually one of my favorite tournament guys here.
So is that mostly because you're projecting maybe he plays a little bit more versus Drummond than his 20 minutes a night he's been playing recently?
Yeah, I projected. So last game you got like 21 minutes from Kanter, you got 22 from Theis, and then you had the remaining 5 go to a small lineup. I'm not projecting them to go small here, assuming Drummond plays 36 plus. So I split the 48 minutes between Theis and Kanter because not only do I expect them to play with a more traditional center, but also Kanter is just the better rebounder. He's if they don't want Drummond grabbing 25 rebounds, then Kanter needs to play more minutes pretty much. And defensively, Kanter's biggest weakness over the years has been pick and roll defense. Detroit's not a high frequency or a high efficiency pick and roll team, so I don't think there's really concerns for him getting abused in the pick and roll. So I think that Stevens should be able to get more minutes for Kanter here. He's averaged 1.18 DraftKings points per minute this year, so the real issue with him is getting on the floor. It's not producing when he's out there. He's really cheap. He has virtually no ownership. So those are the kind of plays that I like taking stands on in large field tournaments.
I like it, man. I think that high variance players, which you don't want to cash, but in GP is pretty nice. All right, guys. So I always say it, the most important tool in DFS is your own intuition, and that's kind of how you can improve at the game. Uh, you're gonna have to create a unique strategy in DFS if you want to win tournaments. You can't do the same thing as everyone else. So that's gonna be what gets you to the top. But the close second is the Osmo.com membership because that just gives you all the tools you need to speed up your process and also strengthen your plays. So you can use the code Deeper Dive to get half off. Tonight you can get the projections for free, the ownership, and the boom bust, all the written analysis like the deep dive by Adam Laffey, the premium blog. These are all core pieces of how you can build your strategy. So you can get 50% the first week with the code Deeper Dive on the site. All right. Next game, we got Dallas at Phoenix. So Dallas signs Luka Doncic. Kristaps Porzingis has really seen a big bump in production, but his price has seen a bump too. We also had some questionable guys. Delon Wright, Seth Curry, both questionable tonight. That isn't really moving the needle for me because I feel like JJ Barea and Courtney Lee will join the rotation if they're not in it. But how are you breaking down this Dallas team?
I think it's a nightmare beyond the main 3 guys, especially Porzingis, because even if Curry and Wright are able to go, Rick Carlisle tends to kind of go with a hot hand approach with his bench. So even though we've seen kind of consistent rotations recently, I still don't really want to go too deep into this team. But Porzingis is appealing. It is a really tough matchup going into Philly, facing a really good Philadelphia defense. But Porzingis has averaged 1.48 DraftKings points per minute without Luka on the floor this year. He's playing big minutes, played 37 last game, played 33 the game before that, but lost the last few minutes in a non-competitive game late. So I have him in at 34 minutes. I have him projected below his 1.48 points per minute because the matchup is so tough, but the opportunity is still there. So a good play, but not a great play to me.
I like it. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. The matchup kind of compensates for some of that additional bump he should get. Dwight Powell is someone I'm kind of intrigued by because I'm seeing this matchup versus Embiid is pretty extreme as far as, you got to play the big guys. The Maxi Kleber and Powell are pretty much the same size and weight, but I feel like Powell is their kind of like power guy. Is that what do you feel like he's a better matchup for Embiid or is it Kleber?
I think Embiid's just going to kill either of them.
Right.
I don't disagree that you could get more minutes for Powell, but the flip side of that is the more minutes they try and play him against Embiid, the quicker he's racking up fouls. So I didn't really do much one way or the other to adjust his minutes from his normal.
We just got a couple pieces of news here. Grayson Allen is in. Bogdan is out. So maybe we get a Sacramento opening lineup sometime soon here. But we kind of concluded that wasn't a major factor. Dallas, any more plays? I think the prices have gone up on Brunson, and some of the other guys.
Yeah, I'm good with Dallas. Just a brutal spot.
Okay, cool. Philadelphia on the other side. I'm not, man, like they've had a lot of injuries that made some of their guys good, but now they're all healthy. I'm really seeing this as like one of my least favorite teams of the night. Just no one's really jumping out at me, but Adam, are you on any of these guys?
Nothing really jumps out to me either. Embiid's the one that stands out the most because kind of like I mentioned on the other side, I expect him to absolutely destroy the Dallas front court. I don't think they really have an answer for him. But where you start to run into trouble is that, especially on like one center sites, you can only roster him or Drummond. On sites where you can roster two centers, obviously you can roster both, but you're also then allocating a large percentage of your salary to those two guys. So it's a matter of prioritization. But he is my favorite guy from Philly.
Yeah, one guy I was kind of hoping to get on is Josh Richardson because he's coming back from injury. I think he's fully healthy now. But I'm not even landing on him. I guess the price kind of went up to compensate.
Yeah, price jumped quick.
Some of my plays on Super Draft are on the Dallas side of this game, though, actually like pretty appealing. So if you haven't played there, it's a multiplier system. But obviously it's completely different, but you get almost 1.5 times as many points for Kristaps Porzingis, where the baseline is 1. That's a pretty big bump for a guy that's going to be the number 1 guy on the team. And then Brunson is a 1.9x guy. I think it goes up to 2 about. So that'd be your kind of value play on Super Draft if you're trying to take advantage of this free $20. Knicks at Miami. I teased it. I mean, game of the night potential. We actually saw the Knicks win in a blowout last game, which was tilting because RJ Barrett was the chalk play of the night. But they seem pretty consistent, and Barrett, Morris, and Randall, as well as Mitchell Robinson being the core guys here. But the prices are very high on DraftKings. Pretty affordable on FanDuel, but not really popping out. Miami, tough matchup. They're only projected for 103 points. How are you feeling about this next team?
Pretty bad. Miami's, a solid defensive team. They're a good team. It's a road game for the Knicks. They, like you said, on FanDuel, they're reasonably priced, but so are like everybody on this slate. It's like FanDuel just dropped everyone $1,000 below where they normally would be. So it's not like they stand out relative to other players. On DraftKings, I am even less interested. It's just not a very appealing spot.
Oh man, that hurts to hear. But if you're a Knicks fan, maybe unregister. Heat on the other side, I'm seeing, man, they're not looking that great either. I mean, Bam Adebayo has been a complete monster. Butler as well, but they've played in a bunch of overtime games that have pumped up the salaries a lot. Bam is $9K depending on the site. What do you make of this Heat side?
Yeah, on top of that, you have Goran Dragic, who was upgraded to questionable. So if he's in, that muddies the minutes for guys like Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero, takes some usage potentially away from Butler when they're on the floor together. I think Butler's FanDuel salary stands out because it's even lower than his DraftKings price. But I still wouldn't say a core play because, like you said, the salaries have come up as a result of some recent overtime games.
Yeah. So I think this is the stay away game of the night in New York and Miami. If you want this game to not blow up and ruin all our lineups, please click the like button. That improves our predictive abilities greatly. Phoenix, this is another strategic spot. They're playing Oklahoma City. Phoenix, the injuries are the big question mark here. Devin Booker is a game time decision. Aiden is out. That's significant. Cameron Johnson is a game time decision as well. So I think the Aiden injury is the most significant. So we've been seeing a combination of Aaron Baines and Kaminsky as center. Kaminsky had been getting the more minutes, but I'm thinking maybe Baines sneaks back into the starting lineup here, man. What do you think?
I'm expecting Kaminsky to start because Phoenix had said that they wanted to limit Baines, and they have been, like, even before Ayton came back. It's certainly possible that he does, but my guess is that you just get Kaminsky kind of going back to his 28 to 30 minutes, and then Baines playing the rest.
Man, I hope you're not right, because I'm kind of feeling Baines. I feel like this matchup versus Adams. Adams is like that traditional center who's an inside player. Baines really fits that mold more than Kaminsky, but I mean, maybe it's a situation where they want to draw Adams to the perimeter. So
I mean, I agree with you entirely that from a matchup standpoint, it should be Baines. The only reason I'm leaning Kaminsky is that Baines had the injury. They brought him back. They admitted that they played him too much too quickly. He immediately got hurt again, and then they brought him back and been playing him 17 minutes or whatever. So that's my concern. But from a matchup standpoint, I agree with you completely.
Yeah. So this is kind of intuitive play of mine, where I'm kind of valuing Baines above his recent performance. So this is kind of a spot where we should know when you get an opening line or a starting lineup if Baines is going to be a good player or a great one. But I like this spot here. Booker being questionable. I've been riding Rubio pretty hard with Booker out, hoping for some more usage and assists and minutes even, but it hasn't really happened yet. Do you think that's just bad luck, or is it just not that much of a difference maker?
I think it's bad luck, at least to some extent. I mean, the minutes are there. He's been a good fantasy producer even with Booker this year. So I wouldn't expect that to go down when Booker's off the floor.
Okay. Well, the thing is, he's not really popping in projections. If I mean, my projections, which you can get for free today, for game time decision guys, I put them at half of their minutes. That kind of gives you a more balanced approach, because Rubio is going to show up a little bit. Where if Booker's out, maybe he's up a few points. If he's in, he's down a few points. So 50-50 that. That's making Rubio okay play. So that means if Booker is out, he's a good play. And since this is a later game, you can take advantage of late swap in this situation by bumping Rubio when you make your lineups, and then you can swap him out if he's not if Booker is playing. Rest of the team: Oubre, Saric, and Bridges, all cheap on FanDuel. Are those going to be some core plays for you?
Obviously, a lot depending on Booker. Like, if he's out, that's a ton of minutes for Mikal Bridges to soak up. If he's in, then those minutes kind of disappear. So a lot depends there. But Bridges' price did come up, so not a super appealing matchup, and not a really productive player even when he's out there. Low usage guy that kind of just gets by on grabbing rebounds and picking up steals and stuff. So I don't anticipate having a lot of exposure there.
Okay. Yeah, not too exciting, guys. Yeah, Bridges certainly depends a ton on Booker, because he's not going to get the minutes if he doesn't start. So that's a good point. We just got some news. Bagley and Fox are both playing off the bench tonight. So I'm lucky I got that, because I was going to bump up Bagley. But maybe he sees some minutes at power forward. Beal, I feel like with Bogdan out, is going to be a good play, because Bogdan and the closing lineup have been taking some minutes. Bielitsa could play. He's pretty cheap. Are you going to land on Bielitsa?
I don't think so. The usage goes down the more minutes he plays alongside Fox, and even if Fox is coming off the bench, if he's playing 30 minutes, that still means that Bielitsa is playing, a nice chunk of minutes alongside of him. The salaries also come up a bit, and with it being a really tough matchup, slow-paced game, good defensive Indiana team, I still don't really think I'll get to him.
Yeah, he's not the most exciting player. I guess maybe I'm making a leap in judgment that he's going to close this game, but Bagley and Holmes, even though we haven't seen them close together, I feel like that combo makes a lot of sense. So I don't want to project them to just split 48 minutes. I think there's a possibility to play together. Moving on, we got Oklahoma City. Phoenix has been a tougher team this year to play against. But for Oklahoma City, we still have Hamidou Diallo out. Terrence Ferguson's back. Ferguson being back is a boost to some of these starters and usage, because that guy just never shoots the ball. Steven Adams has been playing more minutes as of late, 28 a game. Doesn't make him pop as maybe a play. But I'm not seeing a ton to be interested in Oklahoma City. Is there anyone you're excited about?
I'm not either. Adams is the one that looks the best to me. Guys like Paul and Gilgeous-Alexander and Gallo are just sort of there where, if I get to a little bit, that's fine. But Adams looks like the best option. But even at that DraftKings price tag, I would still prefer Tristan Thompson.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not really feeling this team, but Adams maybe a GBP play. All right, Super Draft. If you just joined us, they're offering $20 free, no deposit even required. And it only takes 5 minutes to go on there and claim this with the code Awesome20. They have some good tournaments you can enter tonight. And when you do, it's a multiplier system, and the projections are free tonight. So you can actually pretty easily build a lineup because you don't have to worry about the salary cap constraints. And that's kind of a cool feature because you can just pick whoever you want, whoever you feel like are the best plays of the night. And you can also win $500 if you head over to our Twitch and type in !SuperDraft. We're going to choose a random winner at 7:05 p.m. to get $500 on SuperDraft for free. So if you're not taking advantage of this free money, I mean, you must hate money.
Hey guys.
In.
Yep, there you go.
All right, thanks for the heads up here. So Van Vliet being in, as I mentioned, it's a knee injury, so I feel like he's not a play. It's just too risky that he'll be limited to some extent. But does that impact how you feel about guys like Terrence Davis, Makau, and some other guys?
Yeah, it just makes it so it's really tough for me to give them enough minutes to really be a good place for me. I think that one thing you can do is still kind of project more minutes for Terrence Davis than you normally would, and then just make sure you're setting a rule to not get him with Van Vliet, not get him with Boucher, because I think that there is a path to more minutes, and we don't really know how the rotation is going to go. But Van Vliet being in obviously is another body that is going to play, at least I would expect at least like reasonable minutes.
All right, we're getting a flood of news here. So the other news was that Makau is starting, not RHJ. So I feel like that really hurts RHJ because I feel like Makau is a guy who could play maybe 35 minutes. That's not going to make him a good GPP play.
I think it hurts Boucher more than it hurts RHJ.
Why is that?
Because I think that in the front court rotation, you were going to get so Boucher is like the backup center. And then it's just a question of, is he playing minutes alongside Ibaka? If they started RHJ and they started OG at the 3, then I think there was a possibility that you were getting more, or you're getting some like Boucher and Ibaka minutes. Them starting OG at the 4, I think makes it a little bit riskier because they could just play like OG at the 4 exclusively, play RHJ as his backup, and then give more minutes to Makau and Davis at the expense of Boucher.
Yeah, but the problem with RHJ there is if he's the backup to Anunoby, this guy plays a lot more minutes when Norman Powell's out of the rotation, so that doesn't leave it.
Yeah, but like he could be the backup to Anunoby and also play the 3, whereas like Boucher's not playing the 3.
Okay, gotcha. So Boucher, he's more of kind of a flyer play for me, just because he produces so much per minute, but the minutes are so sketchy. But you could really benefit if Ibaka gets in foul trouble or some unlikely circumstance like that.
Yeah, definitely not someone that I like. Right now, we haven't projected as the highest owned player on the slate.
Well, that would have been a good night to play DFS. I'll tell you that. Yeah. But sadly, it looks like people have come to their senses. Minnesota, another team where we got to kind of make some leaps of faith here. Karl-Anthony Towns is questionable, but he missed shoot around, or he was limited at shoot around. Then we had Jarrett Culver, questionable, but he participated fully in shoot around. So I mean, I'm feeling like Towns is out, Culver's in. Maybe 75% chance for each. Is that kind of how you're playing this game?
Yeah, that's my guess. Towns missed practice yesterday, was limited today. I don't know exactly what that means, but yeah, that's my guess is that Towns is out and Culver's in.
So this is interesting because Gorgie Dang may be a play if Towns is out, but his price went up a lot, so not as exciting. Teague's the start with Towns out. They just needed more usage. So maybe he's an interesting play. But Culver coming back to the rotation should put Graham back to the bench, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's kind of what I'm thinking. They hate playing that guy, Trevion Graham, recently.
Well, actually, Graham should go back to the bench anyway because Covington only started for disciplinary reasons.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Culver being back should send Teague back to the bench.
Ooh, so, okay, you're right. Good point. So that's making Teague not as exciting. Wiggins is priced up. I'm just not finding a lot because the matchup versus Denver is tough and the prices have all gone up. Unless you feel like there's a guy taking a shot on, well, we can move on.
Yeah, I mean the prices have gone up. I still think that, and it's a really tough spot in Denver. Yeah, I'm not really that interested here.
All right, cool. Denver, on the other hand, Minnesota is one of the worst teams in the league defensively. But they play at a slow pace, so not a great team to target for fantasy in general. Paul Millsap, he's back, right? Or is he questionable?
He's back.
He's back. So he's seen a big price decrease. And if you put him at his season number of 25 minutes a game, he kind of pops out as a good play. But is that reasonable, or should we expect Grant to kind of cut it into his minutes throughout the year?
I think it's reasonable. You just have to. That's the thing. Like his average is 25 minutes, but there's some games where he plays 21 and Grant plays 27. There's other games where Millsap plays 30 and Grant plays 18. So it's a pretty wide range of outcomes, which I like at his price point here, especially against a weak defensive team that plays at a reasonably fast pace in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if Millsap can get it going, he'll probably close the game and get those extra minutes. So it's kind of a little extra bonus for a guy that is a good per minute producer. Jamal Murray is another guy. Maybe he's a play. Honestly, though, like the prices in this game in general, I'm not loving them. Is there any guy you feel like you're going to take some shots on?
Yeah, I don't think the pricing is great. I think Murray's the kind of guy that you can get to in tournaments just because he's another very volatile scorer. Jokic is the one that really stands out to me, though. Maybe goes a little bit overlooked because he's similarly priced to Drummond, but still a pretty favorable matchup here. He's been playing better lately. One concern is that with Millsap back, all of Plumlee's minutes come at the expense of Jokic. So I think it's harder for him to play 36 minutes and more likely you're getting 32 to 33. But I think it's still a pretty good matchup for him. I think his price is still a little bit low because of his slow start to the season.
Yeah, that's kind of cool how Plumlee came off the bench and played a bunch of minutes last time. But yeah, not too exciting with everyone healthy. All right, Orlando at Portland. Orlando is another team that just stinks for fantasy purposes because they play real slow. Everyone's healthy again. But I'm seeing on FanDuel maybe Fournier and Isaac have good prices. But to be honest, I don't think I'm going to have anyone other than on FanDuel. What do you think?
Sorry, yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Yeah, so even maybe Markelle Fultz on FanDuel 4,700 is decent. Portland, another team that's weak on the defensive end, but on Portland, man, Orlando has to be one of the biggest downgrades in matchup in the league. So I think everyone is a little bit more expensive than I would like. Hassan Whiteside has been playing a lot more minutes recently. Maybe a slower paced game, he plays more minutes. Carmelo, reasonable price. Do you see yourself landing on any of these guys?
Probably not as like my highest owned guys. I do think that Whiteside's minutes are appealing, and he's also been averaging like 1.5 points per minute since Melo joined the team about a month ago. So that's kind of interesting to me too. I'm not sure if it keeps up, but it's been the case so far, and he's been playing really, really well. So if he's going to be low owned, I think he's a good tournament option. Nice.
I kind of like it. I think he'll be off the radar. I just had a question about Jonathan Isaac and his hamstring and premium slack. So I assume he didn't miss any games, so I just am not factoring that in.
Yeah. Wasn't on the injury report.
Yeah. Okay. So the most likely case is that he's fine. New Orleans at Golden State. I think this has one of the plays of the night in it, which is interesting because this game probably stink. But Favors, they announced today he's going to play 24 to 26 minutes moving forward instead of being limited to 20. That makes him a great play tonight, and you can't fear him going up against Willie Cauley-Stein and the Warriors. So is he a lock button play tonight?
Yeah, I think he's a really good play. It's just an example of someone being priced for a completely different role than we were just told that he has. So I don't think you should overthink it. I think it's just a really good spot.
Yeah, so that's a good one, especially on DraftKings where they haven't really given a lot of value on the slate. FanDuel, not as good a play, I'd say. Ingram, Drew, Ball. These are all guys that I'll probably play on the night slate, but they don't really pop out as far as the prices. Ingram's 8,700 on both sides. Hollis 8,600 on both sides. Are those prices you find appealing?
I think they're okay. I think there's guys I like more, but it is a good matchup. Ingram, obviously the usage leader here. Drew takes a little bit of a hit with Lonzo back, even though Lonzo's not starting. You're still getting some lineups with them alongside each other. So outside of favors, I think Ingram's my favorite guy from the Pels.
Nice. Golden State, they have everyone back too. Russell and Draymond Green have been playing bigger minutes recently, but their prices are pretty high. Willie Cauley-Stein's been kind of getting his 24 game. The big news was last game we saw Damian Lee started over Eric Pascal. Maybe he's a play, but I mean, to be honest, I really don't like this team for fantasy either. They just don't play at a very good pace. And without any injuries, I can't see any way to get these guys. Are you going to take any chances on maybe Russell or Green?
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's not really a great idea to roster guys from a team running an 11-man rotation. The one exception, I think, is Russell to some extent, because we just saw him play 33 minutes. He's played 30 or more in, I think, 3 of his last 4 games, and we know he's really involved offensively. But the problem that you're still going to run into is that you can't realistically project him for as many minutes as guys like Kemba or Lowry or Lillard that are in the same price range as him. So it's still really tough for him to be a top play.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because I feel like him on this team, it should be an awesome smash spot every night, but the minutes are just a little bit too limited. All right, so if you're just tuning in now, we got a Live Before Lock coming up, taking you all the way to lock with the breaking news. We got this promo on Super Draft going. You can get $20 for free without even depositing using a code AWESEME20. Make sure you get in on that, and then once you sign up for Super Draft, stop by our Slack, type in !Super Draft, and you can be entered in a drawing for 500 more free bucks. So final thoughts here. I'm kind of eyeing Toronto and Detroit as kind of the smash teams of the night just because of so many injuries. What's your core building strategy here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Toronto for me too. I mean, for me and everyone, but I think one other thing to point out with that Toronto starting lineup is that OG's minutes are a bit more valuable now. So that's someone that maybe goes a little bit overlooked. But I think that, yeah, Toronto, Detroit, value-wise are the 2 most appealing spots. I'm there with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad Van Vliet is starting because I really don't like playing those real long shot guys like Rondae Hollis-Jefferson and Boucher. So he's kind of saving us for some potential heartache there. Galloway, kind of the super cheap guy of the night, but can easily disappoint. Are there any other lock plays tonight that you're really honing in on?
I think that, let me see. No, it's like Lowry, Ibaka. I really like Drummond. Galloway for value. That's probably gonna suck. Cantor again is one of my favorite tournament plays.
All right, awesome. So I think it should be a pretty good slate. You can really make some stacked rosters tonight with all the value. And make sure keep on top of all the breaking news by staying tuned to Live Before Lock. And we'll catch you guys all next week on the Deeper Dive.
now.